It's in oils, gummies, lotions. I've even seen it in dog treats. CBD is absolutely everywhere. But with all the hype, there's a ton of confusion. So, what does it actually do? Is it safe? What does the science really say? Well, that's what we're here for. We're going to cut through all that noise and give you the straight facts based on the evidence.
All right, so let's get right into it. To really get a handle on CBD, the first thing we've got to do is separate the marketing from the medicine. You know, the fact from the fiction. And we're going to start with the one thing that confuses almost everybody.
And here it is, the single most important thing to get straight. CBD, that's cannabidiol, is not THC. THC is the stuff in cannabis that gives you the high. CBD, it doesn't do that. It's non-intoxicating. So for the rest of our time here, we're focusing only on CBD.
So, how does this stuff supposedly work? Well, your body has this amazing built-in network called the endocannabinoid system. Seriously, it's like a master control system trying to keep everything in balance. Things like your mood, sleep, even pain. The working theory is that CBD doesn't just barge in and take over. Instead, it kind of nudges this system, helping it do its job a little better.
Okay, so we've got the basics down. Now for the fun part. Let's talk about why everyone is so interested in this stuff. What are the potential benefits? We're going to look at what the actual research is saying, starting with, well, where it all began.
You know, it's funny. CBD feels like this brand new trend, right? But using cannabis for pain, that's ancient. We're talking documented use in China all the way back in 2900 BC. So what scientists are doing now isn't really discovering something new. It's more like they're finally figuring out the how and the why behind a remedy that's been around for millennia.
So how exactly might it help with pain? Well, researchers think it works in a few ways. It seems to target that endocannabinoid system we just talked about. It might help bring down inflammation, and it also interacts with the chemical messengers in our brain. What's really interesting is that early evidence is even suggesting it could be effective for really tough-to-treat conditions, like fibromyalgia.
All right, let's talk about another big one, sleep. I mean, who hasn't been there, just staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m.? It's one of the main reasons people try CBD. So the big question is, does it work?
Well, check this out. A brand new study from 2024 put it to the test. And they found that just 15 milligrams of CBD was just as effective as 5 milligrams of melatonin for improving sleep quality. That's a pretty big deal. Now, we got to be realistic here. The study also pointed out that for folks with more serious, chronic issues like sleep apnea, it wasn't really a game changer. And it's not just sleep and pain. Researchers are also looking hard at mental health. A big review in 2020 pulled together a bunch of studies suggesting CBD might help with symptoms of anxiety, depression, and even things like PTSD-related nightmares. But, and this is a really important but, we have to be clear, this is all still early days. There's not enough evidence yet for doctors to start recommending it as a treatment.
And the research keeps on going. How about this one? Heart health. Yeah, it's a less common topic, but scientists are looking into what CBD might do for our cardiovascular system. So get this. In a 2020 study, they gave a group of healthy guys a pretty high dose of CBD every day for a week. And what happened? Their blood pressure dropped pretty significantly, especially compared to the guys who got a placebo. But, and here's the catch, as soon as they stopped taking it, that effect went away. This is a perfect snapshot of the CBD world right now. You see these promising little sparks, but it just tells you we need way more long-term research.
Okay, so it's not all just more research is needed. It's a huge deal that the FDA has actually approved one medication that's pure CBD. It's called Epidiolex. It's used to treat seizures from some very rare and severe forms of epilepsy. And this is so significant because it's official proof that yes, in certain medical situations, CBD has a very real recognized therapeutic effect.
So we've talked about all the exciting potential, but that's only half the picture. If you're going to be smart about this, you have to know the other side of the coin. So let's get into a much-needed reality check on the risks and the side effects. Look, for most people, CBD is considered pretty safe, but that doesn't mean it's side effect-free. Some people do experience things like, well, diarrhea, changes in appetite or weight, and feeling really tired or drowsy. It's also worth noting that some studies have shown it can affect liver function tests, especially at higher doses.
But honestly, the number one most important safety concern you need to hear is this. The biggest risk with CBD isn't really the CBD itself. It's how it can interact with other medications you might be taking. This is not something to guess about. It makes talking to your doctor or pharmacist before you try it an absolute must.
So let's be real, the CBD market is kind of the Wild West right now. It's not really regulated, so how on earth do you find a good product? Okay, here are 2 simple rules. Number 1, only look at brands that do third-party testing. That just means an independent lab check to make sure what's on the label is actually in the bottle. And number 2, look for something called a batch report or certificate of analysis. That's the actual lab result. The good companies make these super easy to find on their websites.
All right, we have covered a lot of ground. The good, the bad, the science, the risks. So let's wrap this all up. What's the final takeaway? What are the key things you really need to remember from all this?
First up, legality. There's one number you have to know, 0.3%. In the US, for a CBD product to be federally legal, it has to be derived from hemp and contain less than 0.3% THC. If it goes over that tiny amount, legally, it's considered marijuana.
But, and this is a huge but, that's just the federal rule. Your state might have totally different laws, and they can be a lot stricter. So please don't assume that just because you can buy it online, it's legal where you live. You've really got to check your local regulations.
Okay, so let's boil it all down to the essentials. 1. CBD is not THC. It will not get you high. 2. The science for things like pain, sleep, and anxiety looks promising, but it's still early days. 3. The biggest risk by far is how it might interact with other medicines. And all of that leads us to the most important takeaway of all. You absolutely must talk to a doctor or another healthcare professional before trying CBD.
So where does that leave us? We've got this ancient plant compound, now backed by some really exciting, though still new, science. But it's all happening in this super confusing legal and commercial world. So I'll leave you with this question. Is CBD the future of wellness, or is it just another fascinating chapter in its history? I guess only time and a lot more research will tell.